Sam Altman is in the news with a quote that goes like, "We see a future where intelligence is a utility, like electricity or water, and people buy it from us on a meter." Now, what's interesting about that is what is your definition of intelligence in that context? Because when you think about intelligence in like a strictly Darwinian sense, like it has to do with doing the right thing, like being able to assess your environment and then do the right thing, or you're dead. And you don't pass your genes on. So like intelligence has a sort of a very functional aspect to it. Now, we got to kind of ask ourselves, like the way these guys frame intelligence is very familiar if you're like an ex-gifted kid, because it's kind of like knowing facts and trivia, or like using big words, or like doing math, or drawing pictures, or playing a musical instrument. That kind of stuff, sort of, and doing it really precociously too, right? Like the younger that you do it, the bigger the words that you're using at a younger age, or like how many books you've read, and so on and so forth, like that kind of stuff. So think about the context in which that kind of trait is adaptive, like. It's like impressing parents, impressing teachers, and then like impressing the public at large. And we sort of say, well, this person is gifted and therefore they need extra attention. And then if you are, a quote unquote gifted child, you think, well, I'm smart, therefore I deserve extra stuff. And then, that's how you sort of like ruin an entire generation of people. So when you sort of apply this concept, this sort of like idea of, what is intelligence? Like, is it sort of like knowing how to do things, right? Because I would actually, knowing things about the world and knowing how to do things. And then you look at large language models. Well, they can produce a lot of really impressive bluster. Are they good at fact? I mean, sometimes they say the right thing. Sometimes they don't. Are they good at math? They are emphatically terrible at math. They tend to be, like when you sort of look at all the things that are happening around them, again, they're very impressive on benchmarks. They impress the teachers and they impress the parents. And, in this case, the parents are the investors and the teachers are actually the administrators at this point. So they can do impressive demos, but then when you try to make them load-bearing, they have a tendency to fail. And so this kind of idea where we're going to replace, stuff that actually is load-bearing with stuff that has actually no structure to it other than, kind of like a slurry of tokens. That's an interesting proposition, because it's like again, you go back to the sort of Darwinian notion of intelligence of like it has to perform or you're dead. And so, this kind of idea where we go to the intelligence utility and we turn on the tap and then the meter, counts how much intelligence we use, is kind of laughable. And, what's fascinating to me is that the thing where these things actually do appear to be performing is code. And it's like, well, why is that? Because code doesn't have to actually correspond to the truth. It just has to have the right shape. And if you want to, nerd out on that, you can go read like Rudolf Carnap, or I can't remember what the other guy's name is. And, fill your boots with that. And the only reason why code works is because you can test it independently. You can test it with deterministic. You test it with other code. Anyway, I'm going to finish my coffee.